Hi, welcome back to Future Past, and we continue to have Desiree with us. And for those of you who are here for the first time, I sincerely urge you, please look up the first part. There's a journey that she shares and why she's doing what she's doing now. So it will be really helpful for you to connect with what we are going to discuss now here in this. So it helps you go catch up with that and come back and continue with this conversation. And thank you for
Hmm.
being with Future Fast. Prithvi, once again, thank you so much.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's been a very nice journey to tell my story in India and in this continent that is really the continent of the future. I really believe that India is so important for the future. Well, Asia is very important for the future. Let me put it like that.
Yeah, the business, economics, uh, and also the population, right? We literally have nearly half the population of the world. So,
Yeah.
basically, I want to start with you were talking about towards the last part of the conversation. You were talking about how you arrived at abundance. In fact, that was the conversation I want to start with here because this makes sense. You actually arrived at abundance from uh, minimalism. So I want to start
Yes.
with asking you. So what or how would you define minimalist or minimalism?
Well, minimalism, it is a film. Um, and it is about it's a bit dogmatic because if you are a minimalist, you are not attached to stuff. You just use it functionally, and everything you have is multifunctional. And it is like a nomad life. So I think I'm not sure. I haven't even looked at the film because I've never been so dogmatic. I do everything a bit more on intuition, but I think they say 33 items or something. And then you're going to count your socks. And every time that you buy something new, you have to also get rid of something. So it is a bit of a thing for people to really become aware of how much stuff they have and what they need and why they need it. And if you have multifunctional things, then you don't need so much. So it is also the way that backpackers live. And if you are a traveler, and we are live kind of a traveling life, a nomadic life, although we now have a little apartment in Greece, but you can imagine that it is kind of minimalist. So it's not about owning stuff, it's not about really it's just also about how much luxury do you need and how interesting and your life, making your life more about experiences than about stuff, I think. And that is maybe also the digital nomad life. So it appealed to me when I came to holistic sustainability. I have a friend in Holland, and she's very important in the economic space, and she has this program, Drinkable Rivers. She is an economist, an ecology economist like I am. And if you think about the English word of economy, it comes from the Greek oikos, ekos, and ekos is home. And then ecology is knowledge of the home. And then economy is management of the home. And if you don't know anything about the home and about ecology, how can you manage it? That is my philosophy. So you need to understand our planet, how it works, and why it works like that.
How do you stitch the minimalism approach to this?
Abundanism.
No,
Yeah.
I'll
Well,
come
the
to the
thing is that,
abundanism later. I was curious about what
okay,
you said about
yeah.
your approach to economy and
Well,
ecology and minimalism.
yeah. Well, the thing is that if you live a life of experience and a bit of meaning, whatever you call that, then everything is about time, freedom, and money. If you don't relate the three, you have nothing. Because if you really go for a lot of money, then you will have very little time to enjoy even that money. You will have to spend more to insure all that money. At some point, you don't even know who your friends are because maybe they come for the money and not for you. And you see a lot of rich people that hang out with the people who knew them when they were still young, because they knew them before the money and they know that they're real friends. But even then, the money comes in the way. It is in a. I have, we have millionaire friends, and it's interesting to see what happens in group dynamics when they are in the group. If you go for dinner, then it's kind of expected that they pay more, which is funny because it's stupid. It's like, and I love to think about these group dynamics and to observe them. I'm an observer, I like to observe group dynamics and read them. And then I think, okay, so when I went freelance, and then after that, when I went ill, I became really poor. I lived on the buffer I had as a freelancer. So I could really not spend much because the buffer is gone very quickly if you have an expensive house or expensive energy or whatever. So you have to really be very, very, very careful where you spend it. So then minimalism is a solution to a lot of things, as well as having friends, because you always have a couch to be on, or a guest room, or like we did in my period with cancer. My mom has a house and she has an attic and she doesn't use it. So we lived there for a year and we shared her meals and we did everything. And she just was there, and she had a too big house anyway, but she never wants to move because she's old and she knows this neighborhood for 50 years and she cannot find a smaller house here. So this was a solution for us. And you really start thinking about things like this. I think India, you come from a really group culture, but in the West, we have a very individualistic culture. And there is family, yes, and there is friends. But there's also not the swarm-like group culture that I experience in Asia.
Right.
And that is also maybe what I told you in the last episode. I have Asian ancestors.
Right.
My current husband has African ancestors, so he's Dutch African from birth. He's never been to Africa and he doesn't know his dad, but he is Dutch Nigerian. So we think about these things, about how cultures work and how it then works. And if you have adversity in your life, you better have friends or family or whatever, or because otherwise it will be hard to, because the best insurance can't insure you for things like this. Of course, you need insurance, but
Right. So, but having said that, just by calling this minimalism as abundancism, will it just translate like that? This needs a huge mind shift, right? From a point of accepting it, of viewing it. Just by calling it
yes, but
abundance, will
for
it
me, it
change?
doesn't. Yes, well, the thing is that in blue economy and in permaculture and in everything, everybody is about abundant mindset. And the abundant mindset is about possibilities. it's not about, it's not like a book like The Secret or something American, or yeah, and then I think about money and then the money is going to flow or whatever. It's like that is stupid. That is not how our planet works. But if you focus, because we see so many, we live in a chaos planet, a chaos universe. And as humans, we can only live here and stay mentally healthy when we focus on something. It just comes in. And then the chaos comes in, and our mind makes a concept of it. And we either like it or don't. So it is always comparing in our mind. That is the psychology of it. So we always need to compare things. He is richer than me makes you feel poor. I am richer than him, he makes you feel happy. I am healthier than him makes you feel healthy. I am really ill, and but not as ill as the poor children in Africa, makes you feel guilty that you even feel ill, because you're not as ill as some people in the world who are maybe in war zones or other places. And I think internet really makes this even bigger, because we see now what is happening at the other end of the world. I said in my earlier episode, or maybe in the beginning to you, I'm the last generation that started work in 1987, when there were no computers. The first computer was MS-DOS. I still remember it. And we had telex and telefax, and people don't even know we had like these
typewriters.
Typewriters. And I've never flown before I had, my first work assignment somewhere, and I flew, and I had even the luxury of being business class, and I was 22. And I said to the guy next to me, I said, can I sit at the window, please? Because I was so mesmerized by flying. People cannot imagine that nowadays. They are so spoiled with everything that everything seems normal. But 3D thinking and things like flying and seeing things from above and having an eagle-eye view and thinking about interconnections and having a man land on the moon and having satellites and seeing stuff and having all these mirrors out in space. It's all around my birth that it started. So it's my generation. This is so interesting. And then I see my grandchildren, and they will never know life without gaming and AR and VR, and it's so normal for them. And it's also so testosterone driven and so roller coaster or something. And being on Bali really makes me aware of that, because in Holland we are a temperate climate. We do not have snakes. We do not have scorpions. We do not have anything the most dangerous thing is a tick in the woods, which is a very small spider that brings the Lyme disease. So that is really something. And then people make big deals out of it. But here, people still live with volcanoes and earthquakes, and they just live. And then I think, how to deal with all that when people just make big conferences about measuring CO2. And then I think it's not about that. Oxygen is really a very, very corrosive element. But in humans and in animals, it cleans. I know, it cleans. It cleanses, and you should know because the Indians, Indian culture has all the breath work and all the breathing techniques and all the gurus that do dynamic meditations with breath. And breath is what cleanses, and not even the intake, but the out-breath, because we need to release. We need to release much more than we do now. So all these things go through my mind all the time. And then I try to design better solutions, because that's what my work is about. The things I tell you now are also a bit, private combined with work, but that's how my life is. It always merges, life and work. I have to bring myself to my work and my passions, and I can't do it anyway else, I think.
Well, actually, everybody does that, but people like to keep them separate at the same time. So, and the reference to that work-life balance. So
maybe that's why I love artists and musicians, because they bring their everything to their work and their passion, and they're often so right, so wise, and so sense. And that's why the think tank Abundance for All is a think tank of me and my husband. We have a lot of scientists around us, so a lot of technology, biomimicry, biomimetics, biodesign, microbes, fungi, bamboo, abundant materials, seaweeds, bio-rock. I'm now for a project of bio-rock in Bali.
So what exactly do you do with Abundance for All?
We redesign areas.
Okay.
So you must imagine we get an assignment, and mostly it starts very practically in business. So in Europe, you must know that ESG, since this year, it will become, you don't realize it yet in Indian business, but it will become the biggest shift ever.
Well, it is made mandatory to report ESG along with your financials.
Yeah.
Depending on a certain size of the company.
So if you want to stay in European supply chains, wherever you are in the world, if you're American or Asian or African or whatever, if you want to stay in European supply chains, you will be part of the LCA, the life cycle assessment of products. And that means, are they sustainable compared to others? And it has to do a lot with certification and everything. And then you will have to report ESG. Right. And it doesn't mean you have to be perfect at ESG. You have to report it.
Correct.
And reporting is the now, but reporting is also the ambition for the future. So what we do with, for instance, in Holland, we have the Institute of Biomimicry Innovations and Sustainable Development. I work with them since 2014. So about 10 years now. And we have a huge group of consultants. And what we do is we do measurable, qualitative ESG and SDGs. Because the thing is, ESG is for companies and SDGs are for institutions and governments. And of course, these money streams go the opposite direction.
So you basically do, as in you, the companies and institutions engage you to do some kind of an ESG audit or an SDG audit for them?
Yes. We do a certification.
Okay,
they get a report. We do it with, we have SDG, ESG. It is measuring. It is just qualitative measuring at first, and we do it together with Arcadis, and Arcadis does the quantitative part. So we look at Yeah, we look at all the reportings, we look at the figures, we have talks with the CEOs.
So are
And
you
then, for instance,
certified? Are you required to be
well,
certified body to do this, or is it that you actually
no,
help an organization or
no.
institution to align to those expectations of the certification?
Yes. What we do is we are not certified yet because this year it only started. It's between 2024 and 2027 that all companies have to comply. So that's why ESG is such a buzzword in business. So all the big consultancies have been, well, are on it. But of course, there's a lot of fraud in that as well. ESG means that you have to make it, well, you have to make it measurable. But how can you make it measurable if you go, for instance, carbon, and then they say, oh yeah, but I align with this forest in, I don't know, Costa Rica, and they are not cutting down the trees now. And that means that is wonderful because that means that I can have a positive against my own negative on carbon. But the company in Costa Rica was never planning on cutting down the trees. So that is the big Verra scandal right now. So Verra is one of the big certified bodies. And that's why what is the means of certification? And they have this big scandal because how do they even check it? Because you can have a forest and the forest is always meant to stay as a forest. And then you say, oh, we're not going to cut it down. Well, that's all right, but it's all okay. That's not meant to be anyway. So what is it? So I'm not so much about carbon, I must say. What we do, we give these companies a certificate, yes, an ESG, SDG. It's not a certified body like Verra is, but it is enough for their ESG reporting. It is also enough for their CSR reporting, which has been big because it has been in there for years. So we have been doing this for years already, just not so much accredited for ESG. Mm-hmm. But what you need the accreditation for is to monetize it on the carbon credit market, for instance, or the blue bonds market. So if a company really wants to monetize it, it's not enough what we do yet, but it will be in future. We're working on that. But what we do and where we get our
is that future is part of the
on
Fire Guardian is the part of the future?
No. Yeah, no? It can be part of that as well. It's a completely different project.
Okay.
It's completely different. And also Abundance for All is not what this is. This is something that I'm only part of, not my husband. So I'm only part of it. And it is the Institute for Sustainable Development and biomimetic innovations. So what we also do is I don't know, it's all kind of technological innovations. We really look with companies in how to really integrate it in their innovations. And so that are all different parts. But the interesting thing is that it is also SDG. And that means you can go and have a synergy. So one company has this report and you have one language, you know how much it scores on ESG, on SDG. And then you have more of those companies in one industrial estate. And of course, one has waste and the other needs an input. Or one has heat surplus and the other needs heat. Or one has mobility and the other needs it. So you go really to the aggregation. And those are the things in this Institute of Biomimicry Innovation that at this moment, Abundance for All is doing, because we are always about the interconnections. So yes, it is working as a certification, but the people who are really interested in our reports are the industrial estates, are the governments, are designing Holland as one blue-green city, designing Bali as one island, designing, I'm at this moment working on Peloponnese in Greece. It is a tourist economy. There's lots of expats coming. There's lots of water problems. And then you can go digital twin and say, what is the now situation? And how does, for instance, the growth of a city of Kalamata influence the fact that on the Tagatos mountain range, how the water wells are going? There is data on the water wells in the Tagatos. You see how a city like Kalamata grows. It will be the third city of Greece, will be the predictions. They have an airport now, and they have low-cost airlines going from New York to there. Well, lots of Greek people have relocated. It's the diaspora, the old diaspora, from Greece to America, to Canada, to Australia. And all these people are wanting to come back, to have holiday homes full of swimming pools, full of water, full of whatever. And pumping water around is really a huge problem. So then you can monitor how these water wells in the mountains how the swimming pools are affecting the water wells. And then if I talk about that to the governments, then they say, that's interesting, because maybe we have to make a law that the swimming pools are not allowed to have fresh water in them with chlorine, but they should have like tiny bit of salt water in them, for instance, and you just desalinate it a little, and then it will be salt water with, I don't know, ionized or other technologies. I don't know what they should do. You have always 1,000+ possibilities. But at least not have fresh water in these swimming pools and make the problem bigger, because it is fresh water that is the thing that we need to do.
Right. And
what we
who
do
engages you to do it? Is this the government agencies engage you, or?
No, the communities. We always do things. We go there for the communities, then we work, and then we see how our business model works. But that is just Mike and me. We are, freelancers. So we go where we're needed, and then we make sure that maybe the government will give us a project, and with the Institute of Biomimicry Innovations, it's really, it is question driven. So we have done, for instance, 5 river harbors in Limburg in Holland. And then we are paid also out of the millions that they get for European money, because these reports, they are wonderful material to get European projects going. So the subsidies are big in Europe, and we have a lot of Horizon projects. I'm on the one hand a judge for these Horizon projects, so I know how they work. Of course, I can never be involved in the projects that I have an alliance with, but I will not. There are thousands of projects, so that is not a problem. But I know how to write such a proposal and what reports you need to get the investment going. And then if you have the investment going, then you have to make a business model for the rest, because Europe, of course, doesn't want to just doesn't want you to hop from subsidy to subsidy. They want you to have a project that has a valid business model afterwards. So that is what we do. And then we, for instance, we implement in the river harbors. It was a lot about local energy sources. Mm-hmm. Biomimetics is always working with differences, just like our mind works with comparisons, differences. Right. So there is this technology of heat exchangers in sheet pile walls. There is an abundance of sheet pile walls in Holland. We are a water country. So we have canals everywhere. We have harbors, we have river harbors, we have sea harbors, we have everything harbor. And if you put like this technology in it, then the heat difference will give you energy. It will be a local energy source. And if you go fully distributive, then the local energy from the industrial estate can really be a waterfall of, well, energy and wealth for the neighboring houses.
Right. So you bring in your biomimicry system thinking into your ESG consulting and reporting?
Yes, well, of course, you have to look at the technology readiness level of technologies.
But that's a different entity, right?
So many technologies.
You work with them, correct?
Well, the thing is, that is what we do as Abundance for All. We have the links with the sciences, with the technologies, so if we say there are 1,000+ interconnected solutions, we'll find you some solutions for your problem. And I'm part of this consultancy firm, a consultancy collective. They are about sustainable consulting. So we have people who are really about environmental health and the reporting in that. And there are people about, I don't know, mobility, IoT. There's people about the AI of it, the design of I don't know, harbors. So those are the real, we have experts on all kinds of fields. And my husband and I are more the generalists, the deep generalists, who also look at, we hunt the world for technologies, good technologies that have a high technology readiness level. So that's why we're now in Bali.
So you also partner with these different technology companies and explore evaluating the, even evaluate them and explore integrating? Really. Or you use not them really. In your advisory services?
The thing is in the case of the harbors, it was a consortium. So we had Arcadis, which is really a big engineering firm in the quantitative things, quantitative measuring and CO2 and whatever. And then we have, there were water people in there, so water companies. There was also this technology company with the energy. There was also, so it depends a little on what consortium we are in. So I'm always, as a freelancer, I'm part of teams, and they're all different teams. At this moment, I have about 20 teams of projects, and some of them ask my services now, and some of them are still a bit dormant. So it depends on what I work for. I only have 24 hours in a day. So for this company, I do the aggregations mainly. But I also hunt for technologies. And like this technology in Bali, we 4 years ago, we stumbled upon them. And it is a technology from a professor in 1976. A lot of it, I don't know why, but a lot of it came in the 70s. I'm not sure why, but a lot of it is still hidden in science. And the professor died in the meantime, but a couple of environmentalists, so it's not even a company, a couple of environmentalists have scaled it in Jamaica, in Indonesia, in other places of the world. And it is a very simple method. It's called biorock, and it's a very simple method. So we're now looking to interview these people and to see how we can scale it. And of course, because it's not a company, we will make sure that these environmentalists who have been working on this non-stop for the past decades, or since 2000, since the year 2000, I think. So it's 24 years. And I really want them to have a role in it too, because we cannot have that only businesses are patenting. Patenting is the death of innovation, because then others want to make something different and they don't know how, and then so it's really slowing down innovation. So that's what I try to do with Abundance for All. And because I'm a writer, I make courses. We have a website, abundanism.com. We have a big social media following on LinkedIn.
And courses on what? On the
At this moment, we're making a course with an architect on healthy buildings. So that will be healthy buildings. It will also be the financing method to be even a waterfall of wealth and health in year 2. For the rest of the period, it will be earning you money, the building, instead of costing you money. So that is really big. So those things, they have examples. They have been done. It is all real life. And we really try to inspire architects and builders and city designers and everybody with it. So yes, it is what we do. And yeah, that's sometimes I'm a mentor to in universities, so that's also how I try to scale it. As I say, Born Global is a very important part of it, because they have so many mentors from around the world, and they all know so much about cultures and nature. And that is, you cannot just transplant one technology to another culture and think it will succeed. You cannot transplant one technology from Holland, for instance. We are the second food exporter. It's all nice and well, but you cannot transplant it to the tropics, because we do not have that kind of moist. We do not have that kind of heat. We have a completely different climate zone, and there's only 7 climate zones, so it's not rocket science. And that is what I want to say, because people make systemic design so difficult that we do complexity and simplicity. You have only 7 climate zones. It's all in permaculture. And if you transport a technology from one to the other, you just have to understand a little bit of biology and a little bit of your climate zone and the culture. Because if you do not understand the economic culture, what the economy is about, how the governments are acting, how the businesses are acting, every economy is different.
Very
so
true.
That is important to really adapt it. So as Abundance for All, we make global methodology, simple global methodology for different topics, different sectors, different interconnected sectors often, or things, or an area, and then we translate it to local. Because if you do not do that, it will be a disaster and a failure.
Correct. So wonderful. And how are you? You said it can be connected, right? The fire.
Fire guardians. Let's take fire guardians as an example.
Yeah.
We started out with the idea that Web3 could be a solution, and Web3 is about tokenization.
I completely agree it can be, because I run a Web3 company.
I thought so. I must say, I'm sometimes doing Web2 more than Web3, because I do it with communication, and I sometimes, like in Peloponnese, I've started it out of nothing with a Facebook group. And that is really Web2. And it's really like centralized, and it's really nonsense. But we have 54,000 people in this group.
Wow.
And in a few months, it was already 20,000. And it really grows tremendously. And what we do is peace. We don't do anything else. We just do, I don't know, we do a bit of peace, because Peloponnese is a peninsula, a big peninsula, nearly deserted. It has now one growing city on it. It had other big cities. It had Patra, but now it has Kalamata as a big growing city. It's not too far, it's about 2 hours from Athens, where I am, but most of it is mountains and sea. So a lot of it is tourist economy. And then the Greek government is trying to regulate it with law, because Greece has an economy of law. Greek people want nothing more for their children than to be a lawyer or a doctor or a civil servant. They're not very entrepreneurial, but okay, they do have SMEs, they do have some builders, and they do have, and of course they want to make these big villas for the big, I don't know, millionaires that might want to live there. And they make a lot of half-finished buildings, so that...
Why so?
Because the European laws are really stupid. But if it's not finished, then you still get money for it. And if it's finished, then it's over. So it's really, it has to do with subsidies. That's why Italy is so full of half-finished buildings. So that's really a systemic flaw, but not one I can correct, I must say. So I don't know. I might talk to the European Union about it in some point, but let's see. There is some flaws there. But the story that the builders use for their clients is that you can finish it in your own way. And that is really nice. The only thing is that the people that buy it are often, especially the bigger ones, often people who want a golden visa. And a golden visa is the ticket to Schengen and being in Europe for more than 3 months at a time. So people who want to retire, they buy a golden visa by investing in a country, and then they buy a house or other investing in the country, and then they have a visa, and then they can roam around Europe freely because they have Greek residency.
Right.
So you have a lot of more wealthy American and Canadian and Australian people. I must say, in our Facebook group, there are a lot of diaspora who really love Greece and who really have Greek ancestors. So it's easy to get peace going there. But it's also hard to get the Greek people to be entrepreneurial. because it is in their culture to be giving. So they love to pamper people, and they also love, like, we have like hiking groups, and I don't know, we have many people who do like slow food and do all kinds of workshops, and then when I bring a group of expats to like a remote village, for Christmas, for instance, we did it. And then we go to a cafe because we want to spend money. And after we have drunk and eaten, then the restaurant owner says to us, "We're so glad you came. You don't have to pay." And I
Why?
love them for it. Well, the thing is that they have more values than just money in their. They're just glad that they could give this to us as
And since they are not
hospitality.
getting any customers otherwise?
No. That's not. It's just a non. Really, in the remote villages, it's all about it's all about. It's Christmas. There is this Christmas
That's right. That
vibe
is
going,
if you go to a house,
and
but
then
if you
they
go to a
say
restaurant,
yes. But then they do
house,
that as
yes,
well.
that's
So
understandable. But even a restaurant,
I know. But the thing is, I come from a trading country, so in Holland it's completely different. But it is interesting to observe it. And as I said in my last one, it's good to observe the dynamics and then see, okay, how can we do something for the Greek entrepreneurs, the small entrepreneurs? So I made them a Facebook group, and they can have their market. But the Facebook group itself is also a community, and they love to help each other, and they love to give each other names of trusted builders or trusted lawyers or trusted whoever you need in Greece to do it. Great, wonderful, because you need friends to give you a recommendation. So all these things help to get a bit of peace on Peloponnese. But of course, I'm in environmental work. So I started this Facebook group with a friend of mine. She's a restaurant, a hotelier. And this couple has 2 hotels in Arcadia. And she is also trying to get the entrepreneurs together, to really make some decisions as a cooperative, as a collective. And that is
and
hard in Greece because everybody is very competitive. So on the one hand, they are really nice to all the customers. And on the other hand, they're very competitive to other Greeks. So they're always comparing. If your neighbor has something you want, then they're rather jealous. So it is a bit, and sorry for the Greeks, maybe they will be listening to this. So I'm just telling you as I see it as a foreigner, but it's has nothing to do with being wrong or whatever. It is a bit funny to me, but she has been the most magnificent. We met in 2016. And in these 8 years, she has been getting the associations together. So that's an association of hoteliers, association of restaurant owners, association of the whole of Peloponnese, and she's a secretary, and she is a president of one, and she's a secretary of the other. It's all volunteer work next to her business work, but she gets it going, and she's really good at that. So then we decided to get this Facebook group going as a marketplace for Greek entrepreneurs. And we have a hiking group in there, and we have a cooperative in there, and we have lots of people in there that now can use it as a marketplace. Also there, it is not easy for them because Facebook for them and social media are Greek. They do not like to do it in English. They're not comfortable with it sometimes.
that's what I wanted to ask. So, do you understand Greek as well?
Yeah. We're learning, of course. If you want to live somewhere, you learn the language. Yes, it's hard because it has a different alphabet, but we get there. Yes, we have lessons. So 3 times a week when we're there, we have lessons
So
from an old
you're now a
American
Greek
lady.
citizen
No, we're not. No, we're
or
Dutch.
resident?
And we have our company in Holland
Okay.
because we, the thing is, it gets complicated for me if I would have to relocate my whole business there. Maybe in future I would want to do it. But at this moment, we have the business in Holland because we also have our customers in Holland. Like the projects are mainly Dutch or Belgian or German, the bigger projects. And yeah, so this Greek thing started out as a gift to being in Greece and living there. But in the meantime, it's growing bigger because of the Fire Guardians. And Fire Guardians is a Web3 methodology, a global methodology we're making of the whole system of fire. So that means quick detection. That means scaling up to fire guards. It means also community. I spoke to 37 districts in Cordoba, Argentine, and wildfires are always in remote areas. And this spokesperson said to me, wildfires are political because if a tourist area burns and a wood burns, then they let the villages burn and they go to the tourist area because they go to where the money is. And they have, of course, capacity problems. So I can imagine it's not also about being wrong or right. You have capacity problems. So what they did in 2020 in Cordoba, they did community firefighting, and they made chapters, 37, and they train the people themselves. They do their own crowdfunding crowdfunding in the local area, so community funding for the equipment. They train the people, and there are a lot of poor and indigenous people that do the trainings and that are the firefighters. And afterwards, they often get a job in the official Argentine firefighter squads. So that is great because then indigenous people get jobs. Yeah, we want jobs. But of course, they have to train again and again and again to get new people in. They are mainly environmentalists who do this. And they really, they said to me, we want just a few things from you as fire guardians. We want a platform so we get credibility with our own government, that we are serious. We want to have the fire behavior. So we want to know about fire behavior. In mountainous areas, for instance, how does it grow a fire? How does it behave? We want to have a communication method of maybe other fire squads, so we know what their problems and things are and their solutions, and then we can learn from each other, so we can do that more quickly. And the fourth thing was, she says, we don't have a real problem in our chapter for funding, but she said it would be really nice if an app would be also crowdfunding means because of the equipment. So that was the 4 things. It's not a reasonable demand. So we thought, let's see if we can do that with Web3. So at this moment, we're building the app in a second hackathon. You are very welcome to become part of it because it just started and we have another 2 months to go. So it will be until the end of June. We will be building and we will be doing this. with a data lake and a data mesh, and really seeing how to, well, you know all about it, data mediation and semantics and anonymous. It's also a lot. This is done, by the way, in the Alliance of IoT Innovations, which is a community of IoT, AI, and Web3 in Europe. It is in Brussels, and there's lots of IoT in there, the regular IoT, but also this kind of thing. And the Web3 is also focusing a lot on safe whistleblowing, for instance. There is also another project, one together with us, the hackathon, and they are Corrupt Guard. There was also another Brussels DAO in there. So it's also about area DAOs. So there are more projects in the whole hackathon. And the first hackathon in October was more of how to combine data solutions, the digital, with physical and biological. Well, we are, well, a very good example of that. But then, of course, as Abundance for All, we also have the other projects. And I told you about Superformula. And Superformula is has a lot of the new mathematicians around them. And one of them is a Spanish professor, Miguel. And Miguel is having a fire project, fire behavior. And he says, what I need in future is a digital twin to really have to really see how fire behaves, and if our calculations in theory are real, because of course the reality cannot always be measured in the middle of the fire, but simulations can. So my plan is to have Peloponnese has 7 mountain ranges, from very low mountains to higher. And I explained to you about the water project with Kalamata and the water wells. That might be a project. Another project might be the fire behavior. It's not there yet. As I say, Mike and I just hunt projects, and then we see how to get the funding and who will be our customer. We don't know yet. We just know it needs to be done. And then we'll see how to get our funding out of our network. That's also why I love my big LinkedIn audience, because
you want to give a shout out
I will ask them.
Do you want to give a shout out?
I want to.
Please go ahead.
Yes. Well, we have several projects that need funding. There is the project of Fire Guardians, which is a Web3 project. And what we do there is we go with tokenization, and we make it interactive. We will have gaming in the app, most probably to hold the attention of the people. But what I will do in Greece, we will have a charter. We will roll it out in all the hotels. And when people come there, they will also sign a charter that they will look for fire, that they will not put glass in nature, that they will really, there are some rules in there. It is only 6 rules or something. It's rather simple, but they will sign it the moment they sign the for the hotel stay. And then they will also download the app. And then with the app, we know where they are, where they have been, where they see fire, and they will be able to earn tokens. The next step that I envision, and maybe it will be another app, I don't know yet, but I'm always having plans for 10 years or something, but is the farmers, because they're very, very, very important in this. So we have a lot of alternatives for crop burning, which is in composting and doing the soil biology. So if they don't burn, then it will be really good for this thing. So that is fire guardians. We need funding for that. At this moment, it's all still also in volunteer stage. People just do it. And there's a company, professional company, making the data lake and the data mesh and whatever, but they do it in their spare time. We all do it in our spare time. We're just a couple of companies who think that this is important. Then we have the future of building the digital twin for the fire behavior, which will start in Greece. The fire guardians, by the way, is not only Greece or Argentine, it's also Brazil, because we have a Brazilian person in there. So at this moment, we're talking to the fire squad in Brazil. Then there is another project that I'm here for in Bali that is very important because it is about hydrogen, about green hydrogen, but it's also about restoring the corals and making very cheap solutions for dikes, so keeping the water at bay in coastal areas. So that is another project that could be funded.
Maybe you could in your shout out, you could also ask, I mean, along with or apart from funding, what else do you want? Do you want, I mean, from as a digital
I would like to have, it could be components as well. Like if people want to be in the Web3 hackathon, then they can be part of it and giving their components. It's not funding by money. It's really thinking with us how to do it, giving components or being part of it or whatever. It's still open. It's still all there. We have another project in the sea, which is also Web3, which is Blue Hearts Network. BioRock will be just one of the things in there. There's lots of seaweed in there as well. But also that is an open project. You can also bring your technologies, bring things like that. And then we will find the funding. So sometimes it can be maybe an ESA project, and we will have ESA funding, which is the European Space Agency, because in the sea it will work with satellites. In the fire guardians, it is difficult with satellites because of the wooden areas. You don't see through the dense forestation. So that is another thing. But sensor companies can be part of it, or I don't know, satellite, or there's lots of things that can connect into this.
All right. Yeah. Another thing is in places like India, see, we don't have concept of private forests. I think in Europe you have private forests. Am I right?
Yes. Yes,
So,
you sometimes do. You also have a lot of common forests. There's a lot of commons as well. Yes.
Yeah.
But there's also private forests. And then it is logging areas, because that is the thing. It is logging areas. So in America, you have that as well. It's private forests because they do logging. They want to have the wood out of the forests. And then and then you have to redesign also the forests with canals instead of, So there's lots to say about it. And it's all about designing areas. So that is what our work is. If you want to distance our work as Abundance for All from all these projects, then Abundance for All is doing the communication, the writing, the matchmaking of bringing people together, getting the funding, things like that, making projects. But we also we design areas and economies and help people with the aggregated finances of things and directions more. So it's the innovation routes, finding technologies that have a high technology readiness level and that are hidden in science somewhere, and that should be scaled.
Correct. Well,
so that is a bit our job in this. We all have roles, and this is our role as, yeah. If I explain it well, I hope I explain it well.
Well, it's a huge task, and I think there's a lot of components that people can participate with or contribute to. So I urge all the audience and listeners, do share this conversation among your network, and links are there below this podcast, so you can reach out. You can look up on those projects and also reach out to Desiree so that she could take you through and also put you to the probably the each stakeholders, because there are so many different components in it, and it is exciting. And I think it's the time that we kind of come together, do things, and Web3 makes it possible. And I'm sure
Definitely.
this is perhaps best possible with tokenization. Of course, we do have some challenges and limitations in
Yes,
governments
of
approving
course.
it.
I know.
But there is always a workaround. In fact, we are currently working on a tokenization platform a solution for a project where we are actually not uh, going token way, but what we are looking at is that we are going with the smart contract itself. We are putting up smart contract itself instead of token.
Yeah.
So when there is a
Yes, true.
limitation,
That's what
you always can go around.
yeah. Yes, I know. I know that our Austrian company is doing this, and also Leandro in Brazil. He's also in Web3 big, and he's taking us through these concepts all the time with the smart contracts, and so sometimes it's a bit over my head, I must be honest. So I came to this space only in 2016, and I try to understand it all. But there is a lot in it, and I'm so glad that
Believe me,
India is
you're
big
still
on
ahead
it.
of. Believe me, you're still ahead of the curve in that sense, because a lot of people, even in the technology space, don't really. Uh, it is
Okay.
so
I always think
you're
that I'm the oldie. I'm just the oldie who doesn't understand, but maybe that's me.
yeah, it's you thinking like that, because there are a lot of people, a lot of youngsters. In fact, I mean, unfortunately, I've come across where people who know how to do the technology, who know blockchain technology, but they don't know how to apply it in the context of what we are discussing, right? So it is uh, it's ironical, or maybe it
Yeah.
is also a little logical, because that's how the technology works, right? So
Well,
I think
maybe this is also really what Europe is maybe a bit of ahead of than maybe, because I see it a lot in Europe. I'm definitely not the only one. We have projects about, well, it's really for SMEs getting together to get the certification for the carbon credits, or it's about really big things that distribute everything big. And yeah, there's lots of financing in it for yeah, there's just lots of things. So
oh yeah,
yes, I have a lot of friends who work in that space in Europe, and who are applying it in ways that I think, yeah, this is really what it should be applied for.
correct. And it's clearly very exciting times. So
Yes, exciting times, definitely.
wonderful.
Well,
And
thank you for having this conversation with
thank you.
me.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for
so
doing this.
much.
And once again, to the audience and listeners, do share it in your network, and do subscribe to Future Fast, and come back soon, because we'll get Detri to make some predictions on the future and its possibilities, and her
Yes,
perspectives on it, of course. Thank you once again.
thank you.